What up, it's me, JerseyMade93, and today's video is all about getting steals online in NBA 2K24. I'll be covering how to get every type of steal in 2K and how to utilize your badges so you're not wasting adrenaline bars and you're not fouling out. First things first, you gotta have a high enough steal rating for most of the steals I'll be talking about in this video. Those steals are on-ball defense steals where you're facing the offensive player and he's dribbling in front of you. The second is interception steals or lane steals where you're picking off a pass, and the third is a strip steal. A strip steal is basically whenever the offensive player is going for a dunk or a layup. You need a decent glove or right stick ripper badge to pull these animations off, and a decent one I would consider would be gold. You need gold to consistently get steals. Silver and bronze are just not going to cut it out for those type of animations. And if you go for a lot of on-ball steals, strips, or even interceptions, you're most likely going to throw yourself out of position or you're going to be called for a foul. So please, if you don't have a high enough steal rating, the best thing you can do for yourself and for your team is to just play good positional defense and not gamble. The one steal you don't need a high steal rating for is the bump steal. The bump steal is a result of the offensive player dribbling the basketball off of the defensive player's leg, arm, or torso. But quickly I want to pivot to fouls because a lot of people don't understand why fouls happen. Fouls are the result of bad timing and bad position. You never want to try to go for a steal attempt across the offensive player's body because a lot of players will feel like steals are overpowered because they're constantly dribbling in the face of a defender with high steal. In my video that covered how to get steals, I broke down which animations where the unpluckable badge is at its weakest. So watch that video for a more detailed breakdown to understand the entire steal system and why you should use the right stick for most steal attempts. But let's get into the first steal and how to get them to triple. So the first one we'll cover is the on-ball steals. These steals aren't luck or the result of simply spamming the square button or flicking the right stick randomly. Timing is the biggest factor for all of these steals, but this is especially true for these steals. The best time to go for an on-ball steal is when the offensive player is starting or as the basketball has just changed hands. The start of the crossover seems to have the most consistent window. So the key when you are trying to do this online is to pick up on a pattern of the offensive player's dribbling. So you notice that once he does it behind the back, he likes to go into a front cross. You want to read that behind the back and prepare for the front cross. Or when he does reset or he feels like he's about to start isoing, you want to time your steal there. Here's a really good example of picking up on the pattern of my opponent. I can tell that he's trying to move to find spacing to ISO, but because I'm shading and cutting him off, this forces a bump animation and he's now trying to create separation for me to ISO. So as soon as the bump animation ends, I'm preparing myself for the dribbling animation, and you can see here in slow motion that it starts, but my steal attempt interrupts it. This build only has silver glove and right stick ripper, but you can see this was a result of my timing and not just luck or randomness. Also, I will say this, it also helps if you have all of your adrenaline bars, especially if you don't have a high steal rating like this build had at the time, because as your adrenaline bars are used, the lower your attributes become with each missing bar. So you're not going to have as high of a steal rating if you have all three bars gone, or one or two, in comparison to when you have all three adrenaline bars. That is where your steal rating is going to be at its highest. The other thing I want to add is sometimes if your ratings aren't high enough and your opponent has higher playmaking badges, the game can instead reward you with a forced pickup animation. This is still a very valuable animation, especially towards the end of the shot clock, and can result in your opponent still getting intercepted, as you can see here. So I don't want you guys to think you did something wrong just because sometimes you get these forced pickup animations. The only thing that you did wrong was not having a high enough steal rating, and that guy might have Hall of Fame unpluckable or something like that, and it's really nothing you can do besides have Hall of Fame right stick ripper or Hall of Fame glove. Another aspect of getting steals, and I did mention this briefly, is good positioning. So look at this footage. I'm more so going to be on the left side of the ball handler. He's going to try to trigger an escape, but I'm going to go for the steal. Being closer and on the side of the dribbler will increase your chances of getting a steal. The reason being is because they're doing the crossover a little closer to your body, so it's putting the basketball more so in front of you, and that is going to increase your likelihood of getting a steal. The other thing about getting these steals is when you are a little bit more on the side of the offensive player, when they try to use a crossover, as you're seeing right here in this rec footage, you're going to be able to get a bigger window at the start of the crossover, as we talked about it being a more consistent window. Even if they're not doing a crossover, a simple stop animation like that can trigger a steal. So try being on the side of the player, of the offensive player, and you should be able to get a more increased likelihood of getting a steal. So again, the on-ball steals, now that you have this information equipped, you should not really be draining or wasting your adrenaline bars. You should become a more efficient ball hawk. So let's move on to the next steal type and how we can trigger it in 2K Online. Next is the strip steal. The strip steal is arguably the most underused steal animation in the community. A lot of players aren't going for these animations, and they're vastly improved in NBA 2K24. To strip the basketball, you need to go for a steal as the offensive player is gathering the basketball for a dunk or layup. Waiting too late will result in a shooting foul, and too early can throw you out of position. So these animations are a big gamble compared to the on-ball defense steals. But if you are in a good position, meaning in front of the offensive player or on the side of him, or if you're in a position where the basketball is exposed, you will be rewarded. Now, the thing about the strip steal is the fact that the strip steal definitely is something that you want to use only in the half court. Do not try to use this in the full court. It's not like previous years. You're not really going to go or be rewarded with that animation like you could in NBA 2K23 when that game first came out. So try to use or just keep the strip steal for the half court setting. Here's a really good example of when to go for the strip steal. My opponent beats my teammate off the dribble and he's trying to run towards the rim, but I'll trigger a steal attempt just as he's picking up the basketball to go for his dunk. Even in the strip animation, he still jumps after. So that is your window for the strip steal, right before the jump. Next is the interception. These animations will require a higher steal rating depending on the distance of the pass. Full court passes or long cross court passes, you don't necessarily have to have gold or Hall of Fame interceptor or a high steal rating. These steals are simple. You'll want to wait until the basketball is somewhat close and go for the steal. Too early and too late will give you missed attempts at the basketball. Where you'll need a higher rating and badges is in the half court setting and with shorter distances, because the passes are going to be much quicker. Needle Threader will activate a lot, so that can make it hard for you to get a good tracking on the basketball, but you'll have to be super quick with your timing to pick off those passes. I don't recommend going for these passes most of the time because it's just a very low chance of getting a deflection or steal. But the key is to read cuts and keep yourself between the passer and his teammate. So anytime you see an opponent is cutting and he's trying to go to the rim, it's in a shot clock situation, and it doesn't like somebody has a shot, you need to be prepared for them to throw a pass and to look at whatever action is going on the court, and that can help your reflexes to pick off and make those reads for those steals. Again, shorter passes are very hard to pick off, so there's nothing wrong with your badges, there's nothing wrong with your rating. Long passes and cross-court passes are bad passes, and that's why they're easier to get. Okay, now we can get into the best way to go for steals in 2K, and that is the rotation steal. This technique has the highest success rate for steals, and it's not difficult to do. This works better than any other steal I've shown today in this video. Basically, all you have to do is rotate when you see your teammate trigger a hip right animation, and then use the right stick and the hand closer to the basketball. This year, when players are in full sprint, they have a higher chance of losing the basketball through a bump steal or simply a well-timed steal. So make sure you are angled to the path of the basketball, or you're shading more so to where the basketball is, so it's directly in front of you, as we talked about earlier, and then you want to go for the steal. This technique has given me so many high steal games in the rec and has helped us win so many close rec games. This works because a lot of players will drive into traffic and don't pass the basketball. So I expect this to still work when NBA 2K25 drops. because most players don't read the rotations or where the help is coming from. Try this out and let me know how this goes on Twitter at JerseyMade93, and please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. We're so close to 15K subs, and I would love to hit that number before NBA 2K25 drops so we can continue the growth from this year. All right, so I want you guys to pay attention to the score right now. It's 58-67, and I have to say this before I get out of here. Please tell me that you notice that this video contains footage from multiple seasons in NBA 2K24, meaning I didn't get patched out. My build did not just go to the trash can because a patch came out and I had invested a whole bunch of VC. And no, like, all these techniques work throughout the entire year. And I hope that you guys also notice that how I'm playing or how I'm using the steal, I'm not spamming. A lot of players think they're good because they might get rewarded with a steal here and there, but there's no consistency in their play, and better players are going to pick you apart. Like, if you are just spamming square out there, you are making yourself a worse player for your team, and you are just wasting the potential of your build. And that's what I hope this channel can start doing, is help you guys find more value in how the mechanics work so that you can save not just your money but your time as well, and you can invest into the play style and the build that you truly want for NBA 2K25. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe. I'm JerseyMade93. Peace.